Oh my god, I love being motivated. I love being motivated. Me too. I love being motivated.
A couple months back, I was in a conversation with a person, and they're talking to me about their anxieties. And this person wasn't a client, it was just a friend. And they asked me how I got rid of my anxieties. Or how I stopped at least letting my anxieties rule my life. I used to be a very anxious person. I suffered from social anxiety. My biggest fear in high school was someone waving at me and not knowing if they're waving at me. Because I would just have this loop in my mind. Do I wave back? If they're not waving back at me, I will look like a fool. But if I don't wave and they're waving at me, they'll think bad of me. I can't look back because then they'll know they think I'm waving at me, and the person behind me and the person in front of me will laugh at me. In fact, there's almost no scenario where I didn't get laughed at and ridiculed for the rest of my life and everything was ruined because someone waved at me or around me. I even remember one time when, I don't remember exactly why, but I was talking to a female and someone of course asked me if my palms were sweating, because obviously I was, and just act of talking to a female. And top it all off, in my 7th grade, I moved from one junior high to another because of reasons. I wore my coat every day. I never took it off. In fact, I even called it my security blanket. The only time I took it off was PE because we had PE uniforms other time. And this was a full winter coat. It didn't matter if it was 80 degrees. And to top it off, that was the time when my armpits began to stink. Yeah, my armpits began to stink. But I didn't want to wear deodorant because I didn't want to be seen as someone who changed, someone who wore deodorant or didn't wear deodorant and then wore deodorant. But I didn't want to be the smelly person, but I didn't want to be the person who wore deodorant now. Of course, there's one nice person who always made fun of me for being the sneaky kid, which, of course, helped my social anxiety so much. And to top it off, I hate wearing coats. My body runs really hot, so wearing a coat was never comfortable for me. I hate wearing coats. I always had. In fact, at that time, if it was raining out, my coat would always be open, except for that time, because my coat was always closed because I was in a security blanket. But my coat would always be open, and I would always have a huge rain line in front of my body because I just don't like being ridiculously warm. My body just radiated so much heat. So I didn't even like wearing coats. I just felt so much anxiety being around people. And I was thinking to myself, how did I get over it? I mean, a lot of the things are in my book, Joyous Expansion, Unleashing Your Passions, Lead an Inspired Life. There's pretty much 3 things I did to help me push through my social anxiety. There's pretty much one thing that helped get me over my social anxiety. I try to think about it as 3 things, but the reality is, it all comes down to this one idea. And almost the impetus of this video is because I saw this person write this post that said, stop telling people won't love you unless you love yourself. And I thought that was interesting because that's actually the way I got over my self-anxiety. That I got over my personal anxiety. It's not like I'm 100% perfect. I still have those thoughts in the back of my head, but at the same time, I'm closer and happier than anyone. People are surprised when they learn that I used to be really shy. I embraced self-love. I embraced the idea that I have to love myself first. And then I worked at it. I mean, this wasn't this idea where I was like, oh, I love myself. And the next day I'm I'm skipping and rainbows and flowers. No, I worked my butt off to love myself. I worked hard to love myself. If you watch my video, look it up, Power of Words, or Words Are Magical. I believe it's Power of Words. I've changed my speech to Words Are Magical now. I tell the story of how I look myself in the mirror and say, I love you, every time. And this is something I still do. It was funny once, I got this letter from someone. They said they love my speech, but they're not at a point where they could look at themselves in the mirror and say, I love you. And when I started, I wasn't. I wasn't close. I did not believe people liked me. I had friends, I didn't believe they really liked me. I believed they hung out with me for convenience reasons. I didn't really feel close to my family. And my family loved me, by the way. But at the same time, there's this back in my mind that they're just going to leave me, they're going to leave me, they're going to leave me. And a lot of that was because I didn't love myself. And so I looked myself in the eye and said, I love you over and over and over again, and years and years and years, and do exercises on self-love, and truly embraced self-love. Because the reality is, even if other people love you, if you don't love yourself, you're not going to believe it, because I didn't. Anytime anyone told me they loved me, I did not believe them. I didn't feel close to them. I still kept my bubble because I didn't love myself. I didn't know what it means to be loved. And saying to love yourself does not mean you're not worthy of love. It's saying the opposite. It says you're worthy of the ultimate love, the true love, the love that you know exists, which is self-love. Because the reality, it's all an illusion. What I mean by that is that another thing I did is I started to mind my business. Anytime I thought that someone didn't like me, whose business was I in? I was in theirs. And the reality is, I have no idea what anyone is thinking. I mean, think of a time in your life where you had a conversation with somebody and you say something and you're thinking the exact opposite. And you have no idea if people are doing that. Yes, you can try to go all lie to me, House Sherlock, and read those micro facial expressions. Think you're an expression expert, but the reality is you don't know what they're thinking. You have no idea. And getting out of everyone's business, realizing that people are just as self-thinking as you are, that's what I did as well, is realizing that the reality is people don't care if I wear deodorant. That is not going to be something people think about for the rest of their lives. I had this when I started to wear cologne. I didn't want to be seen as a person who wears cologne. But here's the thing. Nobody cares. In the gigantic scheme of things, no one really cares that deeply about every little thing you do. They're too busy thinking about every little thing they do. In fact, almost every time they lash out at something about you, it's really about them, because everything is about them. Everything. The things you hate, the things you rally against, has little to do with the outside world. Has everything to do with your thinking. How you think about it. Imagine, someone comes up to you and goes, you are a rutabaga. Are you mad at them? You're probably confused, because in your mind, that does not mean something to you. But if they call you something, you are ugly, in your mind, that means something. And it's what you believe is what matters. If you believe you're the most gorgeous person in the world and no one can tell you differently, those words will just bounce off and you'll laugh. Or if you don't freaking care, who cares what I look like? There are people who don't care, and that words will just bounce off. And then there's people who believe that they're ugly. And they're trying to put off this veneer of not being ugly, and that's the worst thing to be called. And when someone calls them that, it sends them down into a shame spiral. The difference is simple. It's in their mind. It's what they're thinking. We're not special in the sense of there's never been a new thought, especially about self. It's all in your mind. It's all an illusion. So embracing the illusion, embracing my thinking, and embracing this idea that everyone's doing the best they can with what they have, and the only reason why anyone lashes out at me is because something that's hurting in them, and really embracing the idea that it's all about me and my self-love and my ability to love myself. So the way I work through my social anxiety, now I don't care if I wave at a person because I don't go into that mind space. Who cares if they wave at me and it's not meant for me? It could be something that I laugh at. Ha ha ha, I thought you were waving at me. Turns out you're waving at them. It doesn't matter if I did not think they were and I look back and no one's there and go, oh, you are waving at me. I didn't know. Oh, I know who you... It doesn't matter. What matters was my thought process behind it. And when I love myself, I can accept other people's love. I believe other people love me. I can believe it because I love me. And I can say it. And this wasn't an overnight thing. It took 3 years at least before it didn't feel icky to look myself in the mirror and say I love you. 3 years. It's not overnight for me. But I did it because I made the desire to change. I made that decision to change 11 years ago. I made it. I knew I had to do something different with my life. So the way I got over my anxiety was pretty much one thing, but it's almost broken down into 3 if you think about it. Is 1, I embraced loving myself. 2, I got out of other people's businesses and got into the business of loving myself. And 3, I embraced the illusion of not realizing that I'll never really know what anyone is thinking, and all my problems and all my stress is in my head. So I invite you to take that on. I invite you to make the decision and do the work and love yourself. And any time you in someone else's business, to get out of it and realize and change the thoughts in your head and think new thoughts. And then you too can get through your anxiety.
JoyousExpansion.com. JoyousExpansion.com. Come and say hello to Brett Dupree. He is an inspirational life coach. Good for you and good for me. He turned my life from grey to blue. I'm sure he'll do the same for you. Get in touch and you'll see your life will change dramatically. JoyousExpansion.com. JoyousExpansion.com. Yeah.